Before coming into this course, I thought this was going to be one of those classes that I dread doing the work for. It was one of those courses where you sign up for it because it is a university requirement. You do what you have to do and then go on with your life. However, I did not expect it to have such a positive impact on my reading life. One thing I thoroughly enjoyed was the reader response theory we were told to complete. At first, I did not think I would end up enjoying it because I was only doing it with the intention to complete my assignment for the week. I did not expect to find myself enjoying this so much. At some points, it didn't even feel like I was doing homework because I was doing the work to help myself gain an understanding of the story. A particular story I found this document most useful for was Hills Like White Elephants. This story was very hard for me to interpret because of the dialogue and there was not much background information on the situation that was occurring throughout the story. This document helped raise many questions in my brain. Then all of a sudden, I was finally able to recognize what was going on in the story by using the reader response theory to follow along. For example, I did not understand why the girl was even leaving in the first place until I wrote the question down and went back into the story to reread, and I finally realized that she was leaving because she did not want the man, and she did not want to make the change for the man. While reading the story, Two Kinds, I found two strategies that set the path of my understanding for the course of the semester. I tried various techniques to help improve my reading. The two that I found most useful were rereading the story multiple times and underlining and starring any literary elements that stood out most to me. When I reread the story, I was able to gain a stronger understanding of the struggles that the main character faces. For example, when the character is arguing with her mother over whether she will play piano, she says, "Why don't you like me? I'm not a genius." When I first read this, I thought the character was just upset and it was no big deal. However, this turned out to mean a lot more than I thought. The piano stood as a symbol for the struggle she faced with her mother. This only became evident to me when I went back and reread the story. Underlining the elements also made them stick out more to me. Not only did this make filling out the documents easier, but it also made these stick in my head more. I'm a visual learner, so I was able to understand why each example represented that element because underlining would make it stick out to me. One thing I really learned about myself this semester was how much of a visual learner I really am. This was done by using critical analysis. Since we applied this document to the majority of the stories we read, I was able to see what components each story consists of by putting them down in an organized chart. Seeing these components allowed me to gain better knowledge of what was occurring in the story. This kept me very connected to the story in a way that I never thought was possible. Critical thinking is not something that I only use in literature. I use this in one of my nursing classes. When I take a test for my foundations class, I have to really make sure I fully read and understand the question that is being asked. I have to look deeper into the words and sentences that are in front of me to fully understand what is being asked of me. If I miss one word or I don't pay close enough attention to it, the answer I pick will then be completely wrong. I previously have used critical thinking in my high school classes as well. I was not a strong critical thinker until I took this course. I struggled with various questions that dealt with me reading into the question more. Although critical thinking was used in two different ways for these courses, having to do it for this course helped my brain develop a faster, new way of interpreting and thinking about what was asked of me. I also now am able to use this part of my brain more efficiently since we were asked to critically think various times throughout the semester. Applying critical thinking is something that has become very important to me since I use it almost every day. A major challenge I faced with this class was writing. Before I took this class, I did not have many words in my vocabulary. My writing was very short and to the point and contained words that were bland. However, using the critical analysis document to point out vocabulary words helped me add new words into it that I normally would not have added in the first place. This document made me stop and think about words that I was not too familiar with. For example, instead of saying someone is being loud and obnoxious, I can now say that someone is being boisterous. Story of my own choice was my most memorable moment. I liked having to do the research on my own and getting to pick a story that I thought would interest me most. This also made me realize the type of stories I like. I like stories with big plots. I choose to read The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin. Throughout the story, there are many plot twists that you would not see coming your way, which kept me on the edge of my seat. If it were never for this activity, I would have never made the realization that these stories are ones that interest me the most. My aha moment in literature was realizing that reading actually isn't that bad. Prior to this class, if you asked me if I enjoyed reading for fun or as a de-stressing activity, I probably would have said no. When we got to pick our own story, I realized that reading is something that's actually enjoyable and helps my brain relax by getting me to try to focus on what is going on in the story instead of what is going on in the world around me.